You are listening to the Boss Experience Podcast, a podcast with conversations about business growth, self-development, and maintaining a mindset to achieve business success. My name is Michelle Davis, and I am a business strategist and coach, and I am your host. Let's get started. Welcome to the Boss Experience Podcast. My name is Michelle Davis, and I'm your host. So I'm sharing some bonus content with you in the form of a previous interview with Valarie Albarda. And the topic is Midlife Women Charting a Path to Entrepreneurship. Enjoy the episode.
So, Michelle, let's get right into it. Let's talk about women in midlife changing the path of their life.
Yes. Yes. Exciting.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have done just that.
Yes, I have, in more ways than one.
Well, I think with so many women in midlife, sometimes we may feel like we're stuck and the life that we are living is the life that we have to continue to live. But that isn't true.
No, it's not. We have so many options. And I think we get in the habit of limiting ourselves sometimes, when it comes down to just leaving ourselves open for opportunities and possibilities in our lives. Mm-hmm. We limit ourselves by saying, I'm too old, or I can't learn that, or I don't know if I can do anything new, or I don't have the time, or the kids, the grandkids. We put our own limitations on ourselves sometimes.
I do believe that.
Absolutely.
I do believe that. It's our path. It's our journey. And as we get older, we see that our life starts to open up a bit more. Our kids go off to college. Our life becomes, I don't want to say smaller, but I think our responsibilities start to shrink a little bit in terms of the number of people that we may be responsible for. And I get that for some of us, we may actually have more responsibility on our plate when it comes to, say, being caregivers for our parents. But for a lot of us, our world actually expands. And it's in those times where we get to make those choices for ourselves. And like what you did, we do things like we launch a business or we change our path. So let's talk about what you did.
Sure. Strangely enough, I started off on a career path, the one that everyone, and I say this in quotes, that everyone says that we should start off on, right? Oh, finish school, go to college. I even went to grad school, got my master's degree, and started this career in nonprofit services. And I was excited when I first started. But when I think about it, I really enjoyed my career, by the way. I enjoyed all of the opportunities I was able to receive from having that career. I worked my way up through the ranks. And by the time I left nonprofit services, I was actually assistant vice president for a department that served about 850 people with case management services. So I had a really good run in nonprofit services. And I think somewhere along the way, and this it's a big problem for me, is I'm unable to say, you know what, this isn't serving me anymore. And, instead I have in my mind, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I have to stick with it. Mm-hmm. And so right. I think I had a lot of that in me. And, it was a while that I just wasn't fulfilled. The work was emotionally draining. But I was afraid to say, I want to do something different, because we're not supposed to say we want to do something different. We're not supposed to desire anything different. This is what we were supposed to do. I was supposed to go to college. I was supposed to do all of these things. And now that I wasn't doing these things anymore, or didn't have a desire to do these things anymore, I started feeling like, what's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. So it took a while, but eventually I got up the nerve and it came about because I was having, some issues on a particular job. And it was like, I don't even think it was the issues themselves. It was a little bit of that, the issues at the job. And then it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just done. This is it. You ever had that feeling like is that even totally about that one thing? But then you're like, no, this is it. I'm done. And I didn't have a plan, and I was sitting there, and all I could think about is, I don't want to go back to that career. I don't want to just get another job in nonprofit services. I want to do something different. And so I was sitting there on my couch, not knowing exactly what that meant. And suddenly it popped in my mind that I should start a business. And with that thought in my mind of starting a business, I had no business members in my family. I didn't even know any business owners personally. I only knew that I had to be in control of my own time. This time I was 44, 45. I didn't want to be a 45-year-old woman begging someone for time off. So, yeah, to do anything, to just have a mental health day, to take my daughter somewhere. I did not want to be 45 years old begging someone else that was probably like 35 or, younger than me to get the time that I needed. And so it was on my couch in this living room as I sat there, not knowing what to do with or what was next in my life, that I realized that I'm going to start this business. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to figure it out. And I kind of immersed myself in everything. And I started off with a company that was geared toward helping small business owners kind of have that online presence with a website, with branding, with social media as well. And the more I got into the business, things were going well and things were going great. I knew how to run a nonprofit program and a nonprofit agency, but I had some bumps in the road when it came down to running a business. And sometimes you have to figure out, how will you translate your skills from one industry to another, because they're there. You just got to kind of, reimagine them in a sense. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And I got things up and running. I finally had a flow of things and getting the business going, getting, my first clients in the door, and I was happy. And then I had some challenges. A couple of things happened all at once. So the first thing was, I lost my son tragically. And so it took me, that kind of took me not only by surprise, but it just took the wind out of me.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So all of the excitement that I had about this business, suddenly, I couldn't find it anymore. I couldn't even find excitement for life in that moment. And so it took me a while, but thankfully, one of the things I was able to set up some systems prior to that. And so things were able to essentially continue operating. And so right around the time I kind of began to resurface into, back on social media and kind of getting back into the groove of things after I lost my son, I got a call from a client, a former client, and she was calling me because she wanted us to do some additional work for her. The more and more we talked, it turns out that she wanted us to do the same work that we had just done for her, maybe about a year and a half prior to that. And I'm thinking, we this is the exact same website we already created for you. Like, what happened? And the more and more her and I spoke, the more I realized she had no idea what to do. Yeah, she had this business concept, this business idea, but she had no idea really what to do besides get a website, get a logo. and that was all she knew. And one of the frustrating things that I saw too when I started my business is there's nothing online from A to Z. There's just drips and drabs and bits of information. There's nothing that puts it all together.
Are you trying to handle the challenges of life on your own? With Legal Shield, you don't have to. For more than 30 years, people have trusted Legal Shield to help them navigate messy divorces, challenge traffic tickets, prepare a will, buy a house, and even start a business. For just a small monthly fee, you have a dedicated law firm by your side with real attorneys standing by to advise and guide you through all of the things you never expected to happen. Visit phenomenalboss.com to sign up today.
And so the more I spoke to her, and then I called up a couple of clients, other clients as well, to say, to kind of see what were their biggest struggles with just getting their business off the ground, with managing their business. And I realized before they ever needed a website or branding or social media, hopping on social media, they needed a business mentor. They needed some kind of mentorship, and they needed A to Z education about how to actually start a business.
Well, I think what is happening in instances like that is people are so excited about the idea of having a business, and their steps are all disordered.
Yes.
So they're very excited. So, I'm gonna create a website now, but they don't really know what they're creating the website for.
Exactly.
And they have this pie in the sky idea, and they haven't really thought it out.
I agree. Strangely enough, one of the big things that stood out to me is none of my clients sat down and actually planned out their business.
Mm-hmm.
They just said, I want to start a business, kind of like I did too. I mean, I had like a loose plan, when I started, but my plan kind of evolved over time, that first, year or so in business. And some of that coming from this nonprofit management background. I'm a stickler for planning and systems. But one of the things I realized with them is that, number one, they didn't know how to plan. Number two, they didn't know, what that entailed. They didn't have a framework for planning, and they just didn't know where to get that resource. And so,
right.
Yeah, so that was like a big issue that I saw with the clients that I had worked with. So one of the things I decided to do was create something within my business that would help women get the assistance they needed. And I say women because that's predominantly who sought out my services initially. And so, it's not that I would say exclude men from my services, just for the record, but
right.
but women tended to come to my business whether it was website design. And so I'm going to continue with that, even with the launch of Phenomenal Boss Academy, because I decided to launch Phenomenal Boss Academy, which is a group coaching program, simply to address that need of business mentorship, what to do from A to Z when you start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, that I heard a lot of chatter about, and, when I started my business, I dibbled and dabbled for the first, I would say, few months until I found something I wanted to do. And so I think we all kind of dibble dabble, and we instantly think, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to start it based on what I think is profitable. Or I'm going to start it because I see a lot of this going on in the industry and that's the trend. And so within Phenomenal Boss Academy, I want to educate women how to look within themselves, to tap into their own strengths.
Right.
What is it they're passionate about? What is it that they have skills in based on their jobs and their life experience, especially for women in midlife? We're coming with so much richness in terms of our career history, our life experience. And then another thing, and a big component that I have within the Phenomenal Boss Academy, is think about everything you've overcome. And within that, you're going to see a lot of transformations. You're going to see a lot of transformations. And we forget that about ourselves. We're so busy working in our careers, supporting our employers, that we actually forget who we are and our skills, and the fact that we're lending our skills to our employer. They don't own those skills. Those skills are our skills. Yeah. So we forget that. We forget, or we're scared to even step into our power and say that we have those skills and they belong to us.
I want to stop you right there because I want to go back to something that you said earlier, which really relates to what you just said. You talked about people feeling like, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And, they may have the best skills in the world and they feel like this is what they're supposed to be doing, which makes them feel stuck.
Yes.
They're stuck in that position, stuck in that job, stuck with that employer, stuck with these coworkers. And that can really make a person feel boxed in. And by feeling that, by being in that space, that puts a person in this place of fear, and they're afraid to move forward. They're afraid to expand their horizons. And that also relates to something that you said about, it was kind of a buildup of stressors that made you say, I'm done. For me, that's like when you have these little things that are building up, tiny things, until it is the veritable straw that breaks the camel's back. And I think when we don't address these little things, we do have those things that build up. And then like what you said, what you did, it was your breaking point.
Yes.
And so for you, that breaking point, that was the pivotal moment for you.
Yes, it was.
That turned your life around.
Absolutely. And sometimes it was, that blessing in disguise, because it's so stressful to be in a position where I was undervalued. I was valued enough to do the work, but not to be recognized for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I had this associate vice president position, but I had no power in that agency. I wasn't the person with the power. And, to me, that was a slap in the face, because I had the education, I had the experience. Why don't I have the authority? And I think that for me, that, was something, that led up to that kind of, it was like a brick that kind of hit me. It's like I had it in the back of my mind, but when that brick hit me, it kind of permeated around my entire head that I mean nothing. I'm here to do the work, the grunt work. But at the end of the day, we'll give you the title. Maybe we'll give you a little bit of money, but, don't think you have value here. And
right.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a matter for women, and I know there are men in the audience as well, but for women to try to determine what is more important to them. Do they want to have power over their lives and put their skills to work for them? Or do they want to, you said something earlier. I keep going back to the things that you say earlier because they are such bright spots for me. You said, do I want to beg someone for time off? And when you are your own boss,
Yes,
you don't have to beg anyone.
exactly.
And I get what you mean. If you are a 50 plus woman and you have to go to a 30 or 35-year-old person who has been installed in a position as your quote unquote superior, can I please get X amount of time off for a doctor's appointment or for a day of vacation? And it does kind of make you feel like the child in the situation. The roles are reversed. And it's things like this that we have to think about, because I don't know, you look at ageism in the workplace and all of that comes into play. And, we really have to think about these things for ourselves. As we get older, do we want to be caught in that role, in that position?
Absolutely. And one of the things too, when I think about I made this move. I was 45 years old when I decided to start a business, but I actually should have been developing another stream of income long before I started that business.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, as we've seen, in what's happening in today's world, no job is safe. Any job can go by the wayside, and you don't want to be 45, 50 trying to put the pieces together. And we need to, establish goals for ourselves. What do we want? Where are we with our retirement? Have we saved enough? You talked about obligations before, and our obligations kind of diminish as we get older and our kids get older. But then we also have things that we may want to do with the house. Do we want to spend our retirement where we're broke and we don't want to, and we can't do anything because we can't afford to, take a vacation or even take a drive or go away or help the kids with college expenses or grandkids and so forth. So the older I got, the more I thought about what is it? I don't have years and years, how we said in our 20s, we don't need to think about retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're here. Just like my age now, 49 came fast and furious. How fast will 65 come? Yeah. So we need to think about, what is it we want? And I made that decision that I wasn't going to let fear hold me back. I wasn't going to let a lack of information hold me back from what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do deep down inside, it really wasn't so much about the business itself, but when you dig a little deeper and you peel it back a little bit, what I wanted was freedom. What I wanted was control of my own life. I'm look at my age and I'm not in control of my own life. and that frustrated me. And I'm not proposing people
Right.
run out and did what I did and just, leave their jobs. That's not what I'm proposing. but what I but what I am proposing is that you evaluate yourself as a whole and think about all those skills and all of the expertise that you possess and all of the knowledge you have and all of your ability to bring about a transformation for someone else. And how can you profit from your own skills and expertise? Or do you plan to just allow your only employers to profit from it?
Right.
Yeah, we have a lot within us that we contribute and we're undervalued in the workplace. But then on the other flip side, we contribute so much. If we think about all the times we've been dog tired coming in from our jobs where, and then having to turn around and cook dinner and do all of the things we have to do at home. And we're just exhausted, all for someone else. And so as we age and as we need to get more in tune with what makes us happy. Are we happy? Like I mentioned before, I had this tendency to not take action because I was like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. So if this is what I'm supposed to do, I may not be supported by my family, by my spouse, by my friends if I choose to do something different. I may be told that I'm crazy if I decide that I want to start a business at 45. And I just chose to ignore all of that. And they did say all those things to me, by the way. It's like, why would you, you have this, you have that, and you have your master's degree, and you have, all of these years of experience. You have 22 years experience working in nonprofit services. Why would you leave that good job?
Well, but time and time again, we've seen where the people closest to us don't believe in our dreams as much as we do. They don't value our dreams as much as we do. It's sad to say, but I mean, you could go like, when I think of things like this, what actually comes to mind, and it may sound silly, is the movie Forrest Gump. When he is sitting on that, when he's sitting on that bench talking with that woman, and that's what I think about. He's talking to a stranger, and it's sometimes if you were sitting on a park bench talking to a stranger, that stranger will probably be, oh, you go for it, girl. You do your thing, and be more excited for you than someone who's closest to you would be.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And that's why regardless of what you decide to do or what goals you have, definitely find support outside your existing network. So for, if you want to start a business, of course, I'd want you to get in connection, contact me, reach out to me, and I could, help you along. But also get involved with a network of people that want to do the same thing. And with Facebook, there are so many networks. So whether you want to lose weight, you want to get on a different diet regimen, you're going through divorce, you had a toxic breakup, regardless of what it is that you want to make a change in, there's a group for it on Facebook. All you have to do is type it in. Yeah. And you will find so much support. And, lately, probably for the last 6 months, I've found a tremendous amount of midlife groups for women, people that are, career changers on Facebook. And particularly, as a midlife woman, I mean, we're dealing with a lot of issues. It depends on, are you married? Are you the ones that are married? Maybe they're not like fulfilled in some kind of way, or they need support making decisions to, stay in the marriage, leave the marriage. And then those that are single, how do I date at this age? I'm not going on Tinder or doing all these other things that other people are doing. I'm just using that as an example. Just as an example.
I think Tinder is still out there.
Or maybe Match.com would be the safer one to say. But you get the drift. Like, we need so much support in so many different areas of our life. I mean, I know for me, I wanted to lose weight not too long ago. So I found like a ton of groups where people were talking about what worked for them, what didn't. So there's so much support out there. And your best support sometimes, I hate to say it, is from the people that don't know you that well.
Right. You get that hand up from people because, let's face it, being a midlife woman, it's stressful.
Yes. Yes.
It's stressful, and we need to find ways to deal with that stress. We need to live with less stress in our lives.
Yes. Yes. And
We
yeah,
do.
and we stress out. I mean, my stressors have evolved from what to wear or, the things we used to stress out about, where we're going to, oh my God, do I have enough for retirement? Oh my God, are my kids, am I able to equip them with what they need for college? So it's like things evolve into more. The other thing was too, what I was feeling around that age of 45, am I where I want to be at this stage of my life?
Mhm.
And sometimes we don't even realize it, but like something's missing because we're just going with the flow. If you have a job, you're just you're getting up every day, you're going to work, kind of with your eyes closed. You could probably do your day in your life with your eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as your eyes are closed, you're not open to opportunities, you're not open to things that you may be missing about your fulfillment and your happiness. And we get kind of like zombified because we're so used to doing what we think we're supposed to do.
Well, when we're living a life of routine, that means we're living our life with the blinders on.
Yes.
The peripheral vision, it's blocked because we have those blinders on. So we're not seeing the opportunities to our left, to our right, behind us. And that's what routine does. I mean, like you said, we're living our lives with our eyes closed. And if we just pop them open and see what is around us, see those various opportunities, those things that could be for us, instead of living and realizing the what could have been.
Right. And we don't want to be somewhere, in our rocking chair a couple of decades from now, thinking about all the things and all of the opportunities that we missed and thinking that we weren't fulfilled. And so definitely for your audience, I just want to instill upon them to think about, what are your dreams? What do you have on your shelf, your dream shelf, that you need to actually evaluate, dust off, and implement? Because life is short. There's no time to be unhappy and unfulfilled. So we have to live our lives in a way where we have fulfillment. And even if that means thinking about your job as a way to fund what it is that truly makes you happy, that's what you should do. You should fund what truly makes you happy. Think about what that is. Forget about all the limiting beliefs that you may have. What is it that really and truly makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled? And don't put any filters or barriers. If you could do anything, what would that anything be?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was create a path for my own freedom and flexibility. That was what I wanted. So, everyone needs to decide what is it they want, because success looks different for everyone. Everyone has their own definition of success. And this was important to me. Like, as I sat there, I'm like 45 years old. Is this really where I want to be?
And I think it's knowing what the path is that we want as individuals. We have to know what we want. And it's not what Susie down the street wants. It's not what Jennifer in accounting wants, or it's not what your best friend is buzzing in your ear that she wants. That's fine for them, but it's what we want. And what we want can involve our spouse or our significant other, if that's where we want to go with it. But so often we give for others, and we leave ourselves out of the equation. And we're at an age where it's time to do something for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that's not being selfish. That is not being selfish. And I think that's where a lot of misconceptions come in, is that we think, well, if I do something for myself, I mean, that's being self. No, it is not being selfish to take care of ourselves, to want to do for ourselves.
Absolutely. It's self-care.
It's just not.
It's self-care. And eventually, if you don't take care of yourself, you're just going to fall apart. You're going to be unhappy. And, there's other issues that come from that. When we're unfulfilled or unhappy, we deserve to make sure that we tap into what makes us happy. And, whether it's starting a business, whether it's losing 50 pounds or whatever it is that we want to do, We can convince ourselves sometimes that all the things we can't do, but we don't take enough time to realize all the things we can do.
So, Michelle, at what point in your life did you consider it a reinvention?
I think not right at the start of when I started my business. I think from the age of 40 to 45, I went through this reinvention period, because within that 5-year period, I left a marriage. I drove cross country with my daughter and my dog, and I drove by myself. I mean, it was just crazy. And all of this was a quest for what was next in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of lends to that whole feeling I had, well, I'm not supposed to get a divorce. Getting the divorce, let's say I'm a failure. Or if I say that I'm in a job that I don't like, that's almost saying like I'm a failure. And that was kind of this fear that I had. And I allowed myself to stay too long in situations that clearly I needed to remove myself from. And so from that age of 40 to 45, I went through kind of this self-discovery period, like, who am I? And what do I want to be when I grow up? Right. And because I was already getting the feeling that I needed a change. And it took me, once I was sitting there in my living room at age 45, having just left my last nonprofit job, for me to realize that I needed to do something different. So I think when I was a year into the business, I realized I was reinventing myself. It just took a lot longer than it probably needed to. But that was all that reinvention period. And it's probably good that I didn't think of it in terms of some kind of time frame, because I needed that time to go through those experiences and to kind of rediscover myself. Because like you said, you end up taking care of people so long, and you're doing everything for everyone else, but we don't do anything for ourselves. We don't sit down and reflect about what we want. We just think about, are we meeting the needs of everyone else? And so that in and of itself is draining. So I think by the time I was a couple of years into my business, maybe 46, 47, I realized that this was definitely a reinvention, because I'm a totally different person when people see me professionally, because like I'm connected still with a lot of people from my nonprofit career. So they see me and it's like, this is great what you're doing. And they're like you're a whole new person.
Right.
Yeah, because I went from like running a domestic violence shelter to running a division within a large health agency, overseeing the case management services for people with chronic illnesses. So those are the kind of jobs I had. And so to see me talking about like empowerment in business and finding what you're passionate about and starting a business, even at my age, they're starting to rethink their goals. A couple of them have reached out to me. It's so funny.
But that's the thing, though, Michelle. People can see when you are living your passion.
Mm-hmm.
They see it. They see it all over you. They can tell when you are living your passion.
Yes.
And that's when you know you are doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. That is it. That is it. That is when you truly feel fulfilled, when you have that smile on your face. The great thing about, living your passion is you can own your stuff. You can own your skills and you can own your experience. You can own everything that you've overcome, and you are in control of delivering that and actually impacting someone else's life.
And people see that.
Yeah. Yeah. You are in control. And it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to go to the supervisor and see if you can say this. Can I say this? No, you're in control of what you say about your own life. Yeah. You don't have to get special approval. You don't have to write a memo. You don't have to go up the chain of command. You are in control of your own life. We're just lending our skills and experience to our employers. But those things are ours.
Right. I mean, and for some people, that's fine. I mean, I work for a large home improvement retailer and I enjoy my job. And at this point, I'm not trying to break away. And, I have my reasons for that. And that's fine for me. And for others, like I said, people have to find what works for them. And they'll be fine with that for their own reasons. But everyone has to find their path. They have to find their lane and be happy with that, be fine with that. And it's for me, like for what I do, for the podcast, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy it so much. And other people, this may not be their jam,
Right.
This is not what they do. This is not what they want to do.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. And no matter what age you are, entrepreneurship is challenging, but it can be even more challenging when we are in midlife stage and we think that we're too old to do something, or we think that we can't achieve success with our own business. So I just want to encourage you to take the first step to chart your path to entrepreneurship. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got tons of value from this episode. And I can't wait for you to join me in the next episode of the Boss Experience Podcast. Take care.
Starting a business is easy. Making money from your business is the hard part. The only way to launch a profitable business is to have a plan, direction, and one source of information that gives you everything you need to get started. So what if I told you that a blueprint exists that can take you from finding a business idea you love to launching a profitable online business? Without an email list, a big social media following, or wasting your time scouring the internet trying to put the pieces together. Get the only source you need to launch your profitable business today.
Just visit bossbusinessplanner.com to get yours today. Now back to the episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Boss Experience Podcast. Don't forget to leave a review for this episode and tune in next time.